Oh, man, you gotta love Jethro Tull. And he's got one thing right. There is no way to slow down here, folks. Stevie the Guide here, Kerrville, Texas, 5 a.m. on a beautiful Thursday morning. And there's no way to slow this thing down now. It's like a runaway freight train on a dark and stormy night. The toothpaste is out of the tube, and the cat's out of the bag, and the cows have long since left the barn. This freight train has got no left brain driver running it. You know, the conductor has checked out. I think he jumped off the train the minute it got going. And we're here doing our best, doing my very best to try to save humanity from this attack on the left brain logical. And we're trying to save humanity. Remember, save the clock tower. Save the clock tower. I was in Back to the Future when Marty McFly was about to kiss his girlfriend. That lady said, years ago, lightning struck the clock tower and the clock hadn't worked ever since. Well, I think that's what happened to humanity here, folks. Something happened where our right brain intuitive became very crippled, and the left brain logical took over. But back before that lightning struck, there was this wide open consciousness that people had. And the reason I know that is because our planet is littered with evidence of these unexplainable buildings that our cousins, our ancestors, way back when, were able to do. And I believe they did it not with ropes and chisels and pulleys and stuff, you know. I believe they did that with consciousness. I believe that they were able to manipulate matter with their minds. And I'm given strength and confidence about that intuitive notion of mine from Dr. John Hagelin, who I may have mentioned last week. I can't remember. But you will find I'll repeat myself quite a bit. Dr. John Hagelin is the head of Transcendental Meditation here in the United States, the Maharishi Institute for Transcendental Meditation, and also he is a particle physicist. And what he says is whether you break down matter all the way or you break down your left brain consciousness all the way down, where do you arrive? You arrive at the unified energy field, the unified field theory. And if Dr. John Hagelin is correct, and it seems to me that he is, then that means that if you just have that discipline over your left brain logical and allow it to relax a bit and bring up that right brain intuitive and bring some balance back into your mind, there are a lot of things that are possible. We've been struck by lightning. So save humanity. Save humanity. Do the exercises. Try to understand how this mind works. And I don't pretend to know. I'm just trying the best I can to figure out my own, right? But one of the ways that I think you can do that is try to eat right. And Lord knows I've poured a ton of garbage into this temple, all right, in all sorts of forms, and I'm trying to get better as I go along. And you feel it more as you get a little older. And so the more sensitive you can be to the things you put into this fuel tank that will support you and raise your vibration, but won't, tear it down or clog it up, the better. And one of the things I wanted to show you, I make these things. This is a hot tip, folks. Because I lived in Peru, I became aware of a meat replacement grain called quinoa. Quinoa is a small little grain. People, when they see it on their plate, they think it's rice or some kind of carb. It's not. It's from what I understand, it is the most readily absorbable protein on the planet. It's easily absorbable in the system. And if you have like somebody who doesn't eat very much, or a child that doesn't like to eat too much, a person who has maybe cancer, been treated with chemotherapy, something like that, and they need some protein. A little bit of quinoa goes a long way, and it's really easy to digest. And what I do is I looked on Google, and you can't maybe really see this, but this is a quinoa bar. And this particular one is made out of, I make it with blueberries, but it's got oatmeal, raw oatmeal, and cooked quinoa in it. And I make peanut butter and cranberry quinoa bars. For my daughters, I used to make chocolate coconut ones, these blueberry ones. There's all sorts of recipes on the internet. Quinoa is spelled Quinoa, in case you didn't know. A lot of people still don't know what it is, but this grain was made down in Peru by the Incas, the same people that built those unexplainable buildings down there. Whoever they were, they also were developing all sorts of crops, agriculture down there. And that's why when you go down to Peru, and I'm going to take a trip to Peru, by the way. If you want to go to Peru with me, that'll be sometime this year, I promise you. I'm going to organize that. It will probably, my guess is it'll probably be sometime in the summer or in September, is my guess. But anyway, what you'll see when we go to Peru, or if you go there on your own, not only will you see these unexplainable buildings like Machu Picchu and the Fort Sacsayhuaman and the various buildings in Cusco, but you will see these giant stone terraces that are up high on the mountainside and all over the place. When you travel like I did all over southern Peru, I took these doctors and dentists and builders and teachers all over southern Peru, and everywhere you go, you will see two prominent things. You will see unexplainable stone terraces lining some of the mountainsides where they were growing crops, and you'll see these stone-cut waterways where they were bringing water to these crops, and it's absolutely fascinating. And so the point is that these high-technology people were not only building buildings, they were developing crops like quinoa, all right, and potatoes. You realize that there's like 1,000 different kinds of potatoes in Peru. This is where potatoes came from. You probably thought they came from Idaho. They came from Peru. And there's more different kinds of potatoes in the marketplace than you can ever imagine. And there's various other crops too, quinoa, caoutchouc, and potatoes, and there's all kinds of stuff. And so the point is, when you're trying to raise your vibration, and one of the main things you can do every day is just eat correctly, all right? And don't pack yourself with a bunch of sugar. The wheat products here, I hate to tell you, but it's my belief that most all wheat products now are poison, all right? They have been sprayed by Monsanto and the Bayer company with Roundup and all kinds of other stuff. They've been genetically altered and jacked with so that they can boost their profits. And in the process, this is why, in my layman's opinion, and I'm certainly no doctor, no chemist, but they didn't have things like, gluten intolerance so much before. I mean, bread was, highly sought after, and you didn't hear about these gluten problems. And there are those that say that it has to do with the genetic alteration of the plants and the spraying of massive amounts of chemicals on these plants to grow more plants, to sell more plants, and make more money. And then do they care about your health? No, they don't. And what can you do? Well, you can just do the best you can. But my cousins, who all had fat bellies, one of them went to the doctor, and he said, I work out all the time, and I just... I can't get rid of this belly. The rest of my body's in great shape, but the belly's still there. And the doctor tested him. He says, well, yeah, you have a gluten issue, so take out the gluten. Well, this is easier said than done, but he did it, and his belly shrank back to normal just quickly. And he told all his, the other cousins, and their bellies got better too, except for one of them. He said, forget it, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And he still looks the same. And so I encourage you, there are alternatives to wheat-based products, give it a try. You know, I mean, I was in an Italian restaurant just a couple of nights ago, and they had the best bread, you know, and I ate a whole ton of it, and it was great. I cheat sometimes, you know, but as much as one is able, try to eliminate the gluten from your system. And these little quinoa bars, I make quinoa soups, quinoa salad. You know, if you go to Whole Foods, you'll see several different types of quinoa salad. You can play with it all kinds of ways. And if you're trying to eliminate at least a portion of the meat from your body, I think that's a good thing, and quinoa is a good way to replace it. I personally, you know, I'm a carnivore. I'm a bit of a savage, if we want to know the truth. I come from a hunting culture here in Texas, and so I don't foresee that I will ever eliminate meat from my body, but I have systematically been choosing the type of meat I eat, and stuff that's heavily processed, you know, stuff that comes out of a restaurant, I tend to try to avoid that if I can. And a good friend of mine told me, I was just in the grocery store the other day, he said that in the HEB here in Kerrville, Texas, it's the boar's head products are the ones you want to buy. All right. A lot of the other meats in the deli, they're treated with chemicals and stuff like that, but boar's head is not. And so that was news. I thought that was a hot tip. But anyway, just do what you can. Physical exercise, plenty of water, general nutrition, general common sense, not too much liquid chemical depressants in the form of alcohol. This may feel good, but it actually lowers the vibration, you know. And the more that you can stay away from too much alcohol, little Cabernet Sauvignon every once in a while ain't bad, you know. But if you're just living on a diet of booze every night, you know, I think you might want to take another look. Anyway, that's up to you. I'm doing the best I can just to try to take care of this machine. And one of the ways I take care of it is to try to go through this exercise of, you know, stimulating my right brain by talking to you. This is my therapy class of the day. And, you know, I'm glad if you decided to join in. This train, this runaway freight train idea reminds me of this song about, it was a protest song, and I think it was by the Kingston Trio. It's called The Man Who Never Returned. It goes, all night long, Johnny ride through the station thinking what will become of me. And I had to go, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate may never be learned. He may ride forever in the streets of Boston. He's a man who never returned. I'm not going to turn pro with that singing thing, but I do like to sing. And whatever you can do in your artistic way, do it. All right? I mean, life on this planet for us is running out. You know, it's a weird thing. You're born here, you build all this stuff, you do things, you make relationships, and then poof, you don't know when checkout time is here. And so we only have a few minutes left. You never quite know how many. So express thyself, friend. Express thyself. And go share this notion that you love people. I wanted to talk today about alchemy. Do you know what alchemy is? Have you ever heard of an alchemist? One of my favorite books, may have mentioned, is called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I heard Will Smith years ago. It's been my favorite book because I heard Will Smith, the actor, say that it was his favorite book. And so I went and bought a copy and read it. And now, for many years, it's been my favorite book. And alchemy is about transformation. And now there's different forms of alchemy. Alchemy goes back since time immemorial to the Egyptians and the Sumerians and people who built pyramids and things. The Egyptian mystery schools, I believe, were all about that. And so what is it? What is alchemy? What does an alchemist do? All right. Well, from a scientific perspective, an alchemist turns lead into gold. All right. He turns base metals, cheap, ordinary metals, heavy metals, into a brilliant, glowing, valuable gold that can do all sorts of things. A lot of people don't know, but gold is it goes into all sorts of technology. It doesn't corrode. That's why it's the highest value, I guess. The the people of the planet Nibiru thought it was good because they came here, according to Zecharia Sitchin, to find gold and take it back to repair the atmosphere of their planet, if you want to believe that story. And so an alchemist is one who he doesn't mine gold. He takes ordinary metal and turns it into gold through a alchemical process. All right, and so what does it mean as far as psychologically or emotionally or spiritually? Alchemy is a different thing. Alchemy is about transforming or transmuting an ordinary person into their highest and best self, right? And that is a completely other matter. You might take it up with your pastor and see what he has to say about it. I'm sure he will not be thrilled. But that is an age-old aspiration to turn a base human being into a godlike creature, and one who has full awareness, full capacity, and you can compare and contrast people that you run into, and I was giggling to myself just yesterday about two different people that I've met in my life. And they came along, they shaped my little heart and mind in different ways. And one of those men is a guy named Captain Ken Kendrick. Many people know that I was in oil exploration. I traveled all around the planet. And that's what sort of opened the door to the world to me, and it opened my mind to all sorts of different cultures and peoples and belief systems and ways of life. And I'm very grateful to oil and gas exploration, and it allowed me to wander and explore the planet to my heart's content. But the way that all started, most people don't really know, was when I was 18 years old. I went to a semester at Texas Tech University, and I didn't really like it. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know why I was in college, just because my parents kind of wanted me to. And so I came home and told them, I was going to go to work for a while. They were not thrilled with this idea, but that's what I did. And after a brief few months in the freezing cold up in Amarillo, Texas, on the farm of Orrin Emberton, a friend of mine's dad, changing fence posts in the middle of a blizzard where there's sideways snow and, frost all over the side of your face. I came back to Houston about March or April of that year. That would have been 1978. And I got a job with Arthur Smith Barge Lines out of Houston. And I became a deckhand on one of their tugboats, pushing chemical barges from on the intercoastal waterway from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to through Louisiana to the locks at the Mississippi River. That's about as far as we went. We didn't go into the Mississippi, thank God. That's a whole nother thing when you start pushing barges in the river. But I have seen the whole Texas coast and part of the Louisiana coast, and the jungles, the deep, dark jungles of Louisiana, from a tugboat. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've been all over the planet. I've seen jungles all over the place, and been to the Amazon jungle, and there's nothing quite as horrifying to me as the jungles of Louisiana. Because there are snakes and crocodiles and clouds of giant mosquitoes that will just engulf the whole boat, and eat you alive. These things are like small hummingbirds that'll shoot you with a hypodermic needle and suck your blood. You get about 150 of those all over your body. You're going to sit up and take notice. But anyway, the captain of my little tugboat was called Ken Kendrick, Captain Ken Kendrick. And this guy to me is, and I learned many things from Captain Ken. He taught me a lot about how to cook. He taught me basically 2 important rules of how to fry chicken, which is you got to have the oil hot enough, and when you're mixing up the flour to batter the chicken, you taste the flour, all right? You pour in the garlic salt and the pepper and stuff, whatever you're going to put in there. But then before you go battering everything up, you taste the flour, see how it tastes. And these 2 things have been very helpful to me. But a lot of Captain Ken he was full of bullshit. And he had what I call a negative spin on the world, right? And on humanity. There was something had injured him in his life. And when people have a real negative spin on the world, and they're constantly critical of other people, and they just have nothing nice to say most of the time, something typically has injured them. And I think that's what happened to Captain Ken. But I was his young deckhand when I was 19, and he had me washing decks, and he had me cooking food, and he had me changing the oil in the engines. I was the oiler, and I was the everything. When we come into these chemical plants, you have to pump the barges out or pump stuff into them, chemicals and stuff. I mean, I've seen the bowels of these chemical plants. And but after working a long, hard day, when we were underway going somewhere at nighttime, and Captain Ken would be driving that tugboat, well, I had to stay up on what's called night watch. Okay, I had to be the night watchman on the tugboat, and he had a big old spotlight that shined out in front of us, and you could see gators, crawling around on the shores and stuff, and all night. Sometimes if we were moving somewhere, I had to sit up in that wheelhouse of that tugboat and listen to Captain Ken and all his bullshit about Vietnam, and how they'd slip up on the Viet Cong with their machine guns, and how he was a hero in the war, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he went on and on and on and on, kind of like somebody I know. I probably picked up some of this ramble from Captain Ken Kendrick. But one prevalent part of his personality that I don't have is that he was constantly negative about people. I mean, it didn't matter who you were talking about. He had something negative to say about him. And to Captain Ken Kendrick, nobody was somebody to him. Everybody had all kinds of flaws except him. Yeah, he didn't have any. And he was just very disparaging, very negative. And every time he would talk to someone, he was, he just didn't have a winning attitude. Jack Parker over at Tapatio Springs. I love you, Jack, if you're listening. Jack Parker was my boss for a while, and he had this winning attitude, and he's just constantly smiling, happy, talking to people, full of the Lord, He's a great guy. Anyway, Captain Ken Kendrick had this, in the terms of alchemy, he had a base metal sort of personality. He was definitely your lead grade human being, and it's because his spirit didn't spin very high, and he just he could be as discouraging as anybody I know. He was a discourager. And if you flip the other side of the coin, I was comparing and I was giggling to myself about this contrast of human beings and what might be on the other side of that coin. If Captain Ken Kendrick was the lead-based material, what was the gold-based material? And the name Hondo Crouch popped into my mind, and it makes me smile so big to think about my mentor Hondo Crouch. And when people, if you've ever heard the name Hondo Crouch, you probably think of Luckenbach, Texas, all right? And Hondo was this funny old guy that he was from Fredericksburg, and they lived on a ranch outside of Fredericksburg. And Hondo became aware sometime, I want to say back in the early 70s, maybe in the late 60s, he became aware that there was a small abandoned little town called Luckenbach outside of Fredericksburg, and that it was available for sale. And so Hondo bought the whole town. It's an old western town, and it's got a dance hall and a post office and a few ramshackle buildings. It was this rundown old place. And Hondo bought it, and it was an official town. And so he made himself the mayor and the sheriff and the postmaster of the town. And it was Hondo's town. And he was friends with Jerry Jeff Walker. In fact, the legend goes that Jerry Jeff and Jimmy Buffett went to Key West, Florida to seek their fame and fortune. And Jimmy wrote Margaritaville and started taking off. And Jerry Jeff came back, and he wound up, just a bum living in the cabins at Camp Champions. And what I was going to say about all that, Hondo, what was I going to say? Hondo bought this town, and he became friends with Jerry Jeff Walker. Jerry Jeff brought Waylon, Willie, and the boys, and that was their hideout, okay? Luckenbach, Texas was an outlaw cowboy musician hideout where they used to hang out and play music and drink beer and work up their songs while they were becoming famous. And but then when the song came out, that wasn't their hangout anymore. It became a tourist trap, which is what it is today. But go there. The town's still there, and it's well worth your time to see. I love Luckenbach, especially because I loved Hondo. But the upshot of all that is that long before Hondo Crouch bought the town of Luckenbach, Hondo was a swimming coach and part owner of Camp Champions out on Lake LBJ outside of Marble Falls. And Hondo actually was a swimming champion at the University of Texas. And so Hondo Crouch partnered up with Darrell Royal and Pete Runnels and Horton Necesta, and they bought this beautiful piece of land on Lake LBJ just outside of Marble Falls called Camp Champions. And when I was one of the youngest campers to ever go there, and in 1968 I went there. And my brother had gone in 67, and I went there in 68. And I was like 8 years old, and maybe 9 years old. And I was the skinniest runt of the litter. Me and about 2 or 3 other guys were the smallest kids at Camp Champions. And I was always, as I do, I was always exploring everything. So when it was nap time, I'd always tell my counselor I need to go to the bathroom, and then I'd just go wandering around the camp, and I'd always find Hondo Crouch down at the swim bay whittling, and he knew I was sneaking out, but he didn't care, he thought it was funny, and so he taught me how to whittle, and he gave me my first chew of tobacco, watched me turn green and throw up everywhere. But he was encouraging, you know. He didn't. It was nothing disparaging about this guy. He was constant encourager, and he was our swim coach. And he would encourage me that I was a great swimmer, and I wasn't. In fact, the truth be known, I was afraid of the water, but he'd always encourage us and not push us too hard, except for this one thing, which was that Hondo insisted that every session, every camp session, every single camper in that camp had to swim across Lake LBJ and back. All right, and I mean, when you stood on the dock and you looked out across, I mean, I've been over there lately and it looks like a long way, all right? But back then, it looked like the Atlantic Ocean. From my little 9-year-old perspective, and when Hondo would look at me and say, "You're going to swim across that lake," and I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that." And I was constantly going up to him and telling him why I couldn't do that. That first summer, all summer long, I was telling him, "I can't do it. It's too far. I won't make it. I'll drown," you know. And he was just so encouraging to me and several other kids. "It's going to be all right. You can do it. You're a champion." He'd constantly be saying, "You're a champion," and you know. I didn't believe him. The truth is, I did not believe what he told me. All right, and the day came where we all had to swim across the lake and become the Royal Order of Channel Swimmers. This was a name that he made up. All right, the Royal Order of Channel Swimmers, and he said, "You're going to be a champion. You know, you're going to be a channel swimmer," and so, you know, that Hondo takes off in this little rowboat, you know, or it's a little motorized skiff, and he goes to the other side of the lake, and puts a rocking chair on this dock, and sits there and whittles and waits for everybody to, you know, swim over, and the counselors are herding us onto this dock, and they're saying, "Go," and they have some little boats and stuff to protect us, but I didn't want to go, man. I was just like frozen on that dock. And one of those counselors finally pushed me off of there, you know, pretty much. And so I went, and I was like among the 3 stragglers who were going across, and they would encourage us. They were in the boats. Hondo was waiting for us on the other side, and so we get over to the other side of the dock. And I'm clinging to that dock like I couldn't even believe I made it, and I decided I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to swim all the way back there. There was no way I could make it, and so I just tried to hide under the dock. And Hondo got me out from under that dock with a paddle. He was pushing me with a paddle. "Come on now, you've got to go back." And he got right down at the dock level. And he was like this, "Stevie, you are a champion. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. You're great. You're strong. You're powerful." I don't know what he told me exactly, but he had his face. I was on this dock. No, I don't want to go. And he was just calm. He had this white beard. You could smell the tobacco juice, you know, in his mouth. And he was like, "Stevie, you're going to make it. You are a champion." And finally, he got a little paddle and pushed me off, you know, and then all the way back, he rode and he put his little rocking chair in the boat and followed me all the way back and encouraged me the whole way. And he wouldn't let me near his boat. I wanted to grab onto his boat, and no, you know, he had to peel my fingers off of the dock just to get me out there, and so. He was one of the great encouragers of my life. He truly was. And the most amazing thing was when I got back to that other side and I had made it, and Hondo congratulated me, but everybody else pretty much had gone, right? And he was telling me I was great, and I was just like, yeah, but I mean, everybody else pretty much had made it back, and I was all by myself. So I wandered back to my cabin and collapsed and took a nap, and then later that evening. Every night at Camp Champions, we would go to this thing called Torchlight. And every night, the whole camp would gather there out on the point in this little coliseum that they had made out there. And they had a big, one of those Olympic torches. And so every night there was one camper that would take the torch, and he would come from down on the side of the lake and run. And as the whole camp sang the Camp Champions theme song, that runner would come along the edge of the lake, there just after sunset, and you could see this little torch running, and he'd run right into the middle of the Coliseum, with this torch, and everybody would cheer, and he would stand up on this little thing and light the big torch, just like they do in the Olympics. It was a big deal to be chosen as a torch lighter, and so this evening, hammered from this channel swim, and I was the dead last one of them. I'm walking, with my cabin to Torchlight, and Hondo comes over and says, "Hey, come here, I want to talk to you about something." And I thought he was going to give me a little pep talk or something. And he takes me walking over around these cabins, and I start to hear the song that they're singing, and he goes, "Oh, it's time now." And I said, "What?" And he lights up this torch, and he gives it to me, and he goes, "You're a champion, congratulations, and you better get going." And shakes my hand, and I couldn't believe it. I was crying when he gave me that torch. I'm crying today. It was the most amazing, one of the most amazing, encouraging moments of my life. And I cried all the way down there when he gave me that torch, and I ran along the side of the lake, and I could hear the whole camp singing, and they cheered as I got there, and I lit the torch, and they put this little medal on me, and I felt like somebody. I felt like somebody, maybe for the first time in my life. And there's a saying. If you go to Lukenbach, Texas today, there's a saying, everybody's somebody in Lukenbach. And they think that's a Lukenbach term, but it's really a Camp Champions term. Everybody's somebody at Camp Champions. That's a Hondo Crouch term. And he had the most amazing way of making everybody feel like somebody. All right, and I carry that with me, and I try to use it as much as I can. Sometimes I'm down at base metal, and I'm critical and I'm disparaging like Captain Ken Kendrick. But sometimes I remember Hondo, and I remember the way he was. He was pure gold, okay? In alchemical terms, Hondo Crouch was as good as it gets in human life. I mean, he was as close to a Christ consciousness, godlike spirit that I've ever met. And he's the most wonderful man, and I love him with all my heart. And it raised my self-esteem so much. And he forced me to do something that I didn't think I could do. And then after I did it, and I look back on it, I was like, gosh, if I could do that, what else can I do? And he raised the possibility in the human life that you were greater than you think you are, all right? And I think that's how you become alchemical gold, is you have that love of Christ, that Christ consciousness that cares about other people, that is actively trying to raise the vibration of this planet and save humanity, and bringing up that vibration as high as it'll go. And I love that man. And so as you go out through your day, try your best not to be like Captain Ken. You know, God rest his soul wherever he is. He may still be alive. Captain Ken, if you're out there, I love you for all the things you taught me. But one of the things you taught me is what not to be. All right, and Hondo, you know, bless his heart, Hondo died pretty early, I think in the 70s, and there are monuments to Hondo Crouch around Fredericksburg and Luckenbach, and go over to Luckenbach, and he's got a little bronze statue over there, and you know, just be like Hondo, you know, be gold. I have a quote for the day, which is, if you limit your choices only to what seems possible or reasonable, you disconnect yourself from what you truly want, and all that is left is a compromise. All right, that's from Robert Fritz. If you limit your choices only to what seems possible or reasonable, you disconnect yourself from what you truly want, and all that is left is a compromise. All right? So, be unreasonable. Right? The quote I read the other day fits perfectly with this. All right? Which is, and I think it was Bernard Shaw that said, the reasonable man tries to conform himself to the world. The unreasonable man tries to adapt the world to himself. And so therefore, all progress is left up to the unreasonable man. All progress in the world is unreasonable because it's not of the world yet. The unreasonable man is the one that creates worlds. The one who envisions how the world is supposed to be and follows that intuitive right brain knowledge. The left brain logical is most often just following the rules and following the norm, following the herd. You know, don't follow the herd. Bring yourself up a notch. Envision something. You know you have already, all right? You envision things in your mind, in your heart, and you get excited when you think of them. And oftentimes people don't act upon these because they think they're not possible, not logical, not practical, not reasonable. You know, forget reasonable. It's time to be unreasonable and think up something yourself. And you'll be amazed. I know you do already, but become more active in it and do wild things. Be willing to look ridiculous. Like me, I'm willing. I'll look ridiculous for you all day long because I want to follow this runaway freight train wherever it goes. I want to see where this goes. Now, 3 weeks ago almost, I did not want to do this. In fact, I stalled and dragged my feet to start this live stream because I was afraid of what might come out. You know, the toothpaste would squirt out of the tube, and then what? You know, well, you know, so what? You know, we're all going to die, baby. You know, just do whatever comes to your little heart, and that will raise your vibration. It will cause more of this balance between the left and right brain, and it truly is what's going to save humanity. Save the clock tower. You know, humanity's been struck by lightning somehow and stifled this right brain intuitive. And we've labeled, you know, the left brain logicals as valuable, and we compensate them. We give them all kinds of accolades. But the right brain intuitives, they have not been nearly as well recognized unless they're absolutely extraordinary and just take our attention. But we have so much resource that we need in order to fully be able to confront the changes that are ahead of us. And make no mistake, if you wish that the world was going to stay the same, and you know the Norman Rockwell image that you have of your life here in the United States of America or wherever you live, if you long for days when it was different and it was more simple and stuff like that, you can forget all about that, okay? you'll find little pieces of that here and there, especially if you go out in the country and turn off all of your tech devices and shut off your smart refrigerator. And the Dell computer people are trying to hook everything you got up to the internet, and they will your car, your refrigerator, your toaster, your everything. Sooner or later they're going to try to get those chips in you, baby. And if you think that that's ridiculous and you would never let them inject you with a chip, well, guess what? They got stuff called smart dust. All right, it's a microprocessor the size of a grain of dust. You dump a truckload of this out of an airplane, and it sprinkles on people, and it embeds itself. There's all kinds of ways they can hook you up to the system, and so. Not to depress you, but the world is changing, all right? And you need to be prepared. This is my message. And how do you prepare? Well, one of the ways, there are many ways, but just in general, to raise that intuitive right brain part of yourself. It's a natural part of yourself. The natural, God-given intuition. Listen to it, the small, still voice. And in order to do that, you've got to find ways to relax that left brain logical part of yourself and bring about this balance, this equanimity. And the raising of one single vibration and balancing yourself works wonders, all right? And just a free-flowing expression. What I'm doing here is simply like, imagine an artist who just takes paintballs and throws them against a canvas, all right? That's pretty much what I'm doing here. I'm having fun making art, all right? If you enjoy it, great. If you don't, great. I'm having fun doing it, and I like it. And I'm not, I'm less and less afraid of what others may think of my art. And so if you find something that, whether it is singing or painting or doing something expressive, sharing love with people is an art. Being alchemical gold is an art. It's something to be developed, all right? It's not like, well, I didn't get that, so I don't have any. I'm a base metal type of person, Well, that's not true. Everyone has the God spark, all right? Everyone has this. Everyone has that Christ consciousness within them, all right? All you have to do is relax that left brain logical somehow, to distract it, shake it up, just like the snow globe, if you do, you're going to find new answers to old questions. The broader body of knowledge is out there, all right? And you felt it from time to time. I mean, if you say, oh, no, I don't believe that. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever been driving your car and you pass 2 or 3 exits on the freeway and you don't remember ever seeing them? You sort of come to, and you're 2 or 3 exits down the way. You completely blanked out. All right, what is that all about? Well, that's about a flow state of consciousness where your mind was automatically driving the car and your subconscious was traveling somewhere else. You have the ability. There are 2 people in there. They say, when you say, hey, I was talking to myself. Now, what's up with that? All right, I was talking to myself, and what that is, in my opinion, is the left and right brain talking to each other. This is what plant medicines like ayahuasca help people do. It's a natural chemical that's in human beings called dimethyltryptamine, and it's a natural substance in your brain. It's just that plant medicines and other psychedelics add more of that to you, and so there's a separation between the left and right brain that talk to each other. And it's this talking to each other and bringing about a balance where one is not totally dominant and the other one's ignored and is unhappy that it is ignored. But it's a harmony. It's a harmonizing between the left and right. And so that may be a little deep for you right here at the end of my little rant today, but I'm going to talk extensively about that, and about psychedelics. I'm going to talk about ayahuasca. I'm going to talk about mushrooms. I'm going to talk about LSD. I'm going to talk about Johns Hopkins and the work that they're doing with mental health right now and all those things, and the emerging wisdom that the natural plants of the land belong to us, all right? And it is not right that you can go to a liquor store and buy all the Everclear you want to kill yourself, and you can go to a pharmacy and buy all the chemical-based pharmaceuticals you want, and a doctor will write you all the prescriptions you want. But you cannot use the natural plants of the land. You cannot go in the desert and pick a cactus, or in the jungle and pick a vine, or in your own backyard and pick a weed and use it however you want medicinally as a consenting adult. And that if you do pick those natural plants and use them, that people will point guns at you and throw you in prison, sometimes for the rest of your life. You know, that's wrong, folks. That's absolutely wrong. Those natural plants are valuable to us, and we need them, right? And one of the reasons that we don't have any elders around here to teach us how to use them, because those elders got thrown in jail, all right? And they've been run off and cast out and beaten down. And so we have not been allowed to use medicinally for our mental and physical health some of the plants that we need. All right, that's a big deal. And fortunately, you see that pendulum beginning to swing back into a little bit of balance. Finally, my dad was so horrified with marijuana because he had been reading the newspapers. He had seen, people get thrown in prison for having a shoebox full of weeds that were grown in the ground. You know, some guy that's thrown in prison for a box of marijuana, destroyed his life and the lives of thousands. Let me praise Oklahoma for a minute. I heard that they just released all these people on marijuana charges. Thank you, Oklahoma. It's absolutely wrong that these people have been incarcerated like that for using the natural plants of the land so that pharmaceutical companies can dominate your physical and mental health with a whole bunch of their stuff, much of which is garbage. Now, don't get me wrong. Thank God for pharmaceutical companies and many of the things that they create. Thank God. Thank God for emergency rooms that have opioids that'll kill your pain when you got a multiple compound fracture of your leg or something like that. I mean, thank God. But the pendulum has swung way too far out of balance. And the idea that the American Medical Association and their armed authorities can tell you, average Joe citizen, that you can't use a plant and make a tincture out of it to ease your pain or help your seizures or your digestion or whatever it is. Marijuana does all kinds of stuff we're now finding out. It's not the reefer madness thing that they are telling you about over the years. Anything in excess is bad, of course. An opioid is great if you need some instant pain relief for a terrible problem. But if you go using it recreationally, guess what? It's going to be bad. Same with marijuana, same with anything. All right, but these things are valuable, and so I just didn't mean to quite get on a soapbox there, but I'm passionate about this because it is part of the spectrum that helps human beings balance and regulate the left and right brain. These plant medicines that have been used for time immemorial. That's the reason when I went and did some ayahuasca at a 12-day healing retreat, it was in Colombia, where not only are these plants legal, but they're protected as a sacred rite, sacred ceremonial type of plants that help human beings. They're celebrated, but they're used under the strictest supervision with people who know what the hell they're doing. And they've been doing it for generations, and their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents taught them how to use it, taught them the value of it. And we don't have that because it's been shut down for, a couple hundred years. And we've been taught that, oh, these are the laws and this is correct and so forth. Well, come to find out, ding, 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 the corporations and their interests run the government, which run the laws that, tell you what's right and wrong and good and bad and so forth like that. And so, hey, save humanity, save the clock tower, and eat your quinoa. Go on the internet and find anything that's made out of quinoa, Quinoa, quinoa. All right, and I learned it in Peru, and I've started to use it in these breakfast bars. I've used them in salads. I've used it in soup. You can make all kinds of things out of quinoa. It's a very versatile type of plant. It's a meat replacement grain that's really good for you, and it'll give you the protein you need where you don't have to be carving up animals all the time. And don't get me wrong, I like a good ribeye steak. I'm a bird hunter. If you lay some roast duck or some grilled quail or something like that in front of me, I'm going to tear into it like a savage. But the further along I go and the little bit older my system gets, especially, the more I'm reducing my meat intake and raising my plant intake, and it makes me feel better. It raises the vibration. So whatever you can do today to go out and raise your vibration, which oftentimes is raising the vibration of someone else. Go out there and tell everybody that they're somebody. In one way or another, tell them that they're valuable, that they're meaningful. Speak those magic words like spells into their lives. Tell them they're great. Tell them they've got an amazing future. Tell them how beautiful their artwork is, or how beautiful their music is. If you hear someone anywhere singing just a little bit, you go up and tell them, wow, that was beautiful. Keep doing that. And tell them you love them in any number of a million ways. Go up to somebody just directly and say, have I told you that I loved you today? And I'll say it again. A bell's not a bell until you ring it. All right? A song's not a song until you sing it. The love in your heart was not put there to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away. I love you with all my heart and soul, and I will talk to you tomorrow at 5 a.m. Somebody told me I should probably do this a little later in the morning when people are up and awake. But 5 a.m. is when I'm full of energy and my mind is sort of wide open before I get entangled with all the problems of the day. And so I'm just going to kind of keep rolling. My cousin Sammy, who I love very much, has been a good counselor to me, and he's trying to get me to package it. Sammy's a lot more left brain than I am, although he's got this wonderful right brain quality. And he's trying to get me to sort of package it and condense it, and where it's consumable and it's logical, and you can turn it into something more left brain logical. And at some point I may do that, but right now I'm just having fun, just sort of free streaming, and so I love you, and I hope you go out and make it a great day, and be that alchemical gold, be the Hondo Crouch that I know that you are, and you make it a